Okay, so it's been a while. Good to see you all. We are going to start our lessons today, and we're starting a new chapter, and we are going to start with arithmetic sequence. Okay, so we are going to be talking about arithmetic sequence and series in this chapter, but first we're going to talk about sequence. So I guess the question is, what is a sequence? So here it says a sequence is an ordered list of numbers where a mathematical pattern or rule is used to generate the next term in a list. Okay, so that's what a sequence is. As long as there's a pattern to it, or if there's a rule in which you can apply to get to the next term, okay, or the next number on the list, then that is called a sequence. Okay, so here are three sequences here. Let's take a look and let's find out what the patterns are. So here, the first one says 1, 5, 9, and 13. So hopefully you can see clearly this is going up by 4, going up by 4, and going up by 4. So it's increasing by 4. And the next three terms will be, so plus 4, so 13 plus 4 is 17, 17 plus 4 is 21, 21 plus 4 is 25. So that would be the next three terms for part A. For part B, you can see it goes from 2 to 6, and then to 18, and so on. So here the pattern is we are multiplying it by 3. Okay, so it's tripled. Okay, so then to get to the next term, we go 18 times 3, which is 54, and then 54 times 3, which is 162, and 162 times 3, which is 486. Okay, and finally for part C, it goes from 5, and then to 3, and then to 1. So this time, I think we can see that it's decreasing by 2. So it's decreasing by 2, and the next three terms then will be 1 minus 2, which is negative 1, negative 3, and then negative 5. So these are three different sequences with different patterns. Okay, now we are going to be focused on arithmetic sequence today, so let's take a look what that means. Okay, so here it says a sequence is arithmetic if the terms are separated by a common difference denoted by D. Okay, so common difference. And this means that the terms are generated by either adding or subtracting the same number each time. Okay, so either it keeps going up by the same amount, or if it goes down by the same amount. In either cases, they are what we called an arithmetic sequence. So in our first example, you can see part A and part C, because both of them are either increasing by a certain amount, by 4 in part A, or decreasing by the same amount every single time, which is decreasing by 2 in part C. So they are both arithmetic sequence. Part B is not arithmetic. It's what we call geometric sequence, in which you will learn later on in Math 12. Okay, so here the key thing here, I guess, is D. Okay, that's the common difference. So make sure you know what that means. So here, example 2 is as determine a common difference and the next two terms. So here's the example. It goes from 3 to 8 to 13 to 18. I think it's clear that the difference, the common difference, is 5. It's going up by 5. And the next two terms then will be 18 plus 5, which is 23, 23 plus 5, which is 28. Okay, for part B, similarly, to find a common difference, we can always find a common difference if it is arithmetic by taking the second term minus the first term. Okay, so in this case, it will be 4 minus 5.5, which is negative 1.5. Okay, so the common difference is negative 1.5, and the next two terms will be then 1 minus 1.5, which is negative 0.5. And then negative 0.5 minus 1.5, which is negative 2. Okay, hopefully it's not too difficult. It's basically just the definition of what an arithmetic sequence is. We'll get into slightly more complicated examples right now, actually. Okay, so let's see. Number 3, it says insert 2 numbers between 2 and 20 so that the 4 numbers form an arithmetic sequence. So what the question is asking us to do is we're going to put 2 numbers between 2 and 20. So we have number 2 here. We're going to put 2 numbers in between, and then we're going to put a 20 at the end. So we need to find out what these 2 numbers need to be, so then this forms an arithmetic sequence. So I'm going to give you like a minute or two, so I guess you can pause and think about how you're going to do this. Okay, so hopefully you figure it out. If you haven't, that's okay. I'm going to show you something quickly here. And this is how I'm going to do it, okay? So we know that it's an arithmetic sequence. So then that means to go to the next term from 2, what we need to do from here to here, we need to add a common difference. Okay? And from the second term to the third term, we need to add a common difference. And finally, from the third term to the last term, we need to add a common difference. So what this is, okay, so now this is our first term. I'm going to denote this as T1, okay, first term. This is my fourth term, so I'm going to denote this as T4. So we can see clearly from T1 to T4, what we need to do is to add the common difference 3 times. So in other words, we can write this formula here. We can go 2 plus 3 times the common difference. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this step by step. We can add the common difference 3 times, and you can see this will give us the T4, the fourth term, which is 20. Okay, so, or, you know, we can simplify this. You can see this then becomes 2 plus 3d, right? You add d 3 times, it's 3d. That gives us 20. Then we can solve for the common difference quite easily by using our simple algebra, I guess. So take away 2 on both sides, you should get 18. Okay, minus 2 here, minus 2 here. Divide both sides by 3, you should get the common difference is going to be 6. Therefore, we can find the second term and the third term easily by adding 6 to the first term. So this T2 is going to be 8 because we plus 6. And this is going to be 14 because we are adding 6 to the second term. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to you, because this really leads us to the formula for arithmetic sequence. I'm going to zoom this out a little bit so we can see both here. So I'm going to read this out here. It says general term of an arithmetic sequence is given by Tn. Okay, that is the general term, Tn, and it is equal to a plus d times in brackets n minus 1, where a is the first term and n is the number of terms and d is the common difference. So I'm going to show you how this and this, they are pretty much related. Okay, you can see Tn in our example 3 here, our Tn, we can think of that as our T4, so that's our fourth term. Okay, so that's our fourth term. So T4, I'm going to write it here. T4 is equal to a recall is our first term, so that's 2, plus the common difference, which we don't know. You know what, we do know T4, so we can rewrite T4 as 20. Times n is the number of terms, and you can see from our sequence here that's T1, T2, T3, T4. So there are 4 terms minus 1. If you simplify this gives us 20 equals 2 plus d times 3, which you can see is exactly the same as what we had there. Okay, so this formula really is not something magical. Okay, it really is, you know, it's a common sense. It came from what arithmetic sequence means, and you just need to add common difference time after time. And you can see if we have 4 terms, to go from the first term to the last term, what we do is we actually add the common difference 3 times, and that's why we have the n minus 1 here. Okay, so that's the formula. Basically, you can do the rest of this handout with this formula. Okay, I will just show you a couple more examples here. It says, example 4, given the sequence 2, 9, 16, and so on, determine a simplified equation for the general term. Okay, so now you can see this is going up by 7, this is going up by 7, so clearly this is an arithmetic sequence, and we know that the common difference is 7. We also know that our first term, a, now I just want to, sometimes we call this T1, right, because that's the first term, or sometimes you just see a as the first term. And you'll see both really, but they're the same thing, okay? So a is the first term, which is 2. We are looking for the general term, so we actually don't know what n is, okay? N is just n, and we don't know. So when it's asking for the general term, really it's asking what is Tn equal to. So then but we know what a is, and we know what d is, so then we can actually simplify this equation here. We know a is 2, we know the difference is 7, and n minus 1 here. So then you can simplify this. We get Tn equals 2 plus distribute this, so you get 7n minus 7. Okay, just multiply. So then Tn is equal to, collect like terms here, you get 7n minus 5. And this is the general term. So you can find any term you want using this formula. So for example, for part B, it says determine T30. So because we already know this, we can simply use this to figure out T30. N is now 30, so you simply plug in 30 into n, and then just evaluate. So 7 times 30 is 210, 210 minus, I'll do step by step, 210 minus 5, which is 205. Okay, so that would be the answer for figuring out what T30 is. Okay, T30 would be 205. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here for a bit. You can pause the video, take a look, read over the notes or whatnot. Try example number 5 and see if you can figure it out. Okay, so I'm assuming you finished that. Let's see. So this time it tells us what, the negative 65 is a term, is one of the terms in the sequence 19, 13, and 7, and so on. But we're looking for which term this is. So when I do these sequence questions, I always list out all the information that I need, okay? So based from the equation here, based on this formula, I know I need to know what Tn is, I need to know what A is, and what D is, and what N is. These are all the variables, okay? So then I just basically figure out what information I have. Okay, so let's take a look. This is the sequence, okay? I think it's clear that A, the first term, is 19. I think the common difference is also easy to figure out. Recall, difference is simply second term minus the first term, which is negative 6. The question is, which term is it? Okay, so really what we're looking for is what is n. So from my past experience, a lot of people are a little bit confused with, what's the difference between Tn and n. Okay, the difference being Tn is the value of the term, whereas n is, which term it is, right? Which number. Like for this example here, this 20 is T4. So there are 4 terms. So T4, in this case, T4 is 20, and n would be 4, because there are 4 terms in the sequence, and Tn, in this case T4, would be 20, and that's the value, right? That's the placeholder, I would say. Tn is like a placeholder, okay? Yeah, okay? So then, in this case, Tn is negative 65. Okay, because that's what the value is. Okay, Tn is negative 65. That's the value of that term. N is how many terms there are. So then we have 4 variables. We know 3 of them, so we can actually solve this. So all we need to do is plug in the values into the formula. I'm just going to write down the formula once again. Tn is negative 65. A is 19 plus the common difference, which is negative 6, times n minus 1, which we don't know what that is. Okay, so we can solve this linear equation. Okay, so first I would like to move the 19 over to the left, okay, by subtracting 19. So you should get negative 84 equals -6 times n minus 1. Now from here, there are a couple of different ways you can do this. You can either expand first, or I would, in this case, divide both sides by -6 first. Okay, so I would divide this by -6, divide by -6. You will get 14 is equal to n minus 1. And to solve for n, you add 1 to both sides, and you can see n is equal to 15. So what this means is that there are 15 numbers in this sequence, and that 15th number will be -65. Okay, which term is it? It is the 15th term. Okay, number 6. Again, I'll ask you to pause the video, give it a try, and see how it goes. Okay, so here's number 6. It says, hopefully you got it. It says in an arithmetic sequence, the 5th term is 53 and the 12th term is 102. We are looking for what the first term is. Okay, so this one is definitely a little bit different, slightly more challenging than the previous ones. It says it doesn't tell us the first term. It doesn't tell us the difference. What it does tell us is what the value is for 5th term and what the value is for the 12th term. Now, these terms are really relative. Okay, so the location of it is relative. If I draw this question out, you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is 53, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that's 102. Okay, so that's the situation. Now, instead of treating this as 12 terms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up the first 4 terms. You can't really see my hand, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that 53, this is my T1. In that case, well, this then is going to be, well, what is it? If you're not sure, you can always count by hand. Minus 1 right now. Okay, so that's T1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this is T8. Okay. The rule of thumb is that because it's the 12th term and that's the 5th term, so really how far away, if that's T1, this will be T8. The number 8 came from 12 minus 5 and then plus 1. Okay, that will always work. Okay, so that's the case. All right, now if I treat this as my T1 and that's my T8, then I can actually solve for the common difference, right? Because then I know T1, I know Tn, and I know n, and in this case then would be 8, right? I'm gonna do it here. So we know A is 53 now, and we know Tn, T8 is 102. We know n is 8, so we can actually solve for the common difference now. Okay, so then you just plug into the formula. Again, I'll use this formula. So Tn is 102, and that is equal to A, which is 53, plus the common difference we don't know, and minus 1 will be 8 minus 1. Okay, so then this will be 102. First step, I need to minus 53 on both sides. So you should get 49 is equal to D times 8 minus 1 is 7. Okay, now to solve for D, I subtracted 53 here and here to get 49. To solve for D, you just simply divide both sides by 7. You get the common difference being 7. So that is the common difference. Now, once you get a common difference, you can solve for T1 now, because we can then use it. Now we go back. We don't use this anymore, right? We go back to its original term. This is T1. That would be T4. Now we know T4, we know n would be 4, and we know the common difference is 7, so then I'm going to write it again. So now I don't know what T1 is, but I do know the common difference is now 7, and I do know T4 is 53, and I know n is 4. So based on these information, I can figure out what T1 is. So then, again, using the same formula, Tn is 53. That's an ugly 53. Tn is 53. We don't know what T1 is, or A. Plus, the common difference we do know now is 7. And n is 4. So 4 minus 1. You should get 53 is equal to A plus 4 minus 1 is 3. And 3 times 7 is 21. Now you can solve for a by subtracting 21 both sides. So 53 minus 21 is 32. There you go. A is equal to 32. That is our first term. Okay. Part B, once you get part A, part B really is simple because then you just need to figure out what Tn is in general, right? In general term is Tn. What is Tn? So then we have everything else. We know A is 32 plus we know the common difference is 7. We don't know what n is, and that's okay. So now you just simplify this. You should get Tn is equal to 32 plus expand this. You get 7n minus 7. Therefore, Tn is equal to 7n plus 25. That is the general term. Okay, if you're okay with that, and you should go on to the last example, and this is the last example we're going to be doing today. Okay, so again, I'll ask you to pause and give it a try. Okay, so here's the last example. It says Jimmy climbed up a mountain. His initial altitude was 40 meters above sea level, and it increased by 10 meters each time. How high above sea level will Jimmy be after an hour? Okay, so initial height or initial altitude, that is like RA, right? Initial altitude is 40. It says it increased by 10 meters each minute. Okay, 10 meters each minute. So what that is that's the common difference, right? Common difference is 10. And we're looking for how high above sea level will Jimmy be after an hour. So in this case, it's kind of tricky in this case. You don't really need to use formula. I would say that you don't use formula sometimes, especially when it's word problem, because it's kind of tricky here. N is actually 61. Not 60 that you're thinking of right now, probably. But if you just, I mean, because really because this is the reason why, right? You start with 40, okay? This is T1. After 1 minute is T2, and this will be 50. Remember, this is after 1 minute. Which means here's T3, this will be after 2 minutes. So if we continue with this, after 60 minutes, this would have been T61, okay? And that's what n is 61 is in this case, after 60 minutes. So be really careful when we do word problems, okay? Make sure, because n usually is one that people sometimes messed up, so just be careful. But once we have this, we're looking for Tn. So then you go T61 is equal to A, which is 40, plus the common difference of 10 times 60 minus 1, 61 minus 1, and that'll be 40 plus 10 times 60, which is 40 plus 600. So after an hour, Jimmy will be 640 meters above sea level. Now, again, you might just say, hey, Mr. H, how come I need to do this? Why don't I just go, okay, so I start with 40. Each minute is going to be increased by 10, so I just go 10 times 60. And you're absolutely right. You could simply absolutely just do this, okay? Really, I mean, you can see it's the same thing, okay? By doing this, you actually don't need to go into the formula like what we did, which is okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, okay? So just do what you feel comfortable. All right, so that's it for our first lesson. Please let me know if you have any questions. We can discuss that during office hour. I will also assign the questions for you to do. Yeah, that's it. Let me know if you have any feedback for my video as well, okay? All right, good luck.